Welcome to the Better Eye Health Podcast with Damon P. Miller II, MD. This particular podcast is an excerpt from the weekly conference calls. Dr. Miller focuses on different topics connected to the Better Eye Health program. The topic of this session is about the Better Eye Health Basic Protocol, focusing on the Ortho Liquid Multivitamins. Here is Dr. Miller.
So just as the topic, I've been getting, especially with some of the newer people, questions just about the different supplements that we use as part of our basic protocol. And I just wanted to kind of talk about each of those. So we won't talk about them all today. We'll sort of just do a little talk on each one over the next few weeks. And this kind of loops into one question that came in where somebody was asking about the AREDS formula. And AREDS is kind of it's a loose acronym, It's a term that refers to sort of the program of supplements that ophthalmologists recommend, and it stands for Age-Related Eye Disease Study, AREDS, A-R-E-D-S, Age-Related Eye Disease Study. And for a number of reasons, I'm not really fond of the AREDS formulas. Almost that entire study was funded by Bausch & Lomb, who had bought a brand name called Ocuvite. Ocuvite started out in the 60s when there was some research originally out of Israel that people with macular degeneration tended to be low in zinc, and the other kind of research was that giving some zinc supplementation to people with eye disease, these degenerative eye diseases, especially macular degeneration, seemed to be useful in slowing the progress of the disease. And so Ocuvite was sort of kind of a so-so multivitamin with extra zinc. They added so much extra zinc, in fact, that and people with these eye diseases, their doctors would kind of tell them what doctors tell people now: there's really nothing you can do but here, take these vitamins. And so they would hand out samples of it, and people would take them very diligently. And there was almost 90 milligrams of zinc in the Ocuvite back in the 60s. And after many, many years of diligently taking the vitamins their eye doctor had told them to take, people found out, lo and behold, that too much zinc gives you heart failure, damages your heart, mainly because it displaces copper and manganese and other critical elements. And so a lot of people started showing up in emergency rooms in the 70s in heart failure, and they kind of traced it back. And so you don't want to overdo the zinc, or if you do overdo the zinc, you need to make sure you're taking copper and manganese. But anyhow, this was kind of the brand name for eye disease. And Bausch & Lomb, when they bought the brand, they wanted to be able to market it for eye disease, so they had to do some studies. So they funded this thing called the AREDS study, which a lot of people jokingly call the Ocuvite study. But what's interesting is one of the things about the formula they studied, first of all, it had higher levels of a lot of vitamins than what most doctors were used to prescribing. So it had, amounts of vitamin E and vitamin C and zinc and other things that were well over what the minimum daily requirement or the recommended daily allowance was. So they were far beyond what the minimum was that's usually recommended. And so one of the things the AREDS study did is it proved that larger doses of vitamins are safe because nobody got into trouble with the AREDS. The other thing that it did is it showed that even a poorly designed vitamin, if taken regularly, did slow the progression of the disease of macular degeneration. Now, and that's exactly what it sounds like, slowed the progression. Nobody got better. Nobody's deterioration stopped, but people didn't get bad as quickly. And so this is a standard thing that's recommended now. I don't like the AREDS because it's general. The ones on the market aren't very good. If you go back and actually read the AREDS studies, what they used in the studies was a far superior product to what is actually marketed as AREDS vitamins. In other words, the stuff on the shelves that you go buy isn't nearly as good as what they used in the study. So it's hard to even compare results there. But because they were using a custom formulated thing, for research. And it's not what ended up being put in the bottles that are on the shelf. And I think you can do much better. So having talked about the AREDS, I just want to say that the first thing we'll talk about this week is the liquid multivitamins. And the reason we use a liquid multivitamin, or the reason we recommend one, liquids are far better absorbed. That's one. The Protocol brand that we use, it's labeled as a liquid multivitamin and mineral supplement. In truth, any kind of vitamin mineral supplement, almost all the time, there's very inadequate amounts of minerals, but when you mix vitamins and minerals in the same preparation, you tend to see the minerals get bound up to the fat-soluble vitamins, the vitamin A, vitamin D, vitamin E, vitamin K, the fat-soluble vitamins. And so you really get very little of the minerals out of something like that. Manufacturers do that because people like a kind of one-product thing. They like having everything all together in one product, whether it's pills or liquid. But there are some best practices that are recommended for the manufacture of vitamins, and those best practices would say, don't mix vitamins and minerals in the same product. And so the minerals there's no harm in having the minerals there, but there is a separate mineral supplement we recommend. We'll talk about that next week. But the vitamins, the Protocol brand has been a good brand. People have done very well on it, both with eye disease and other things that I treat. The amounts of things are not too much. And the form of vitamin A that they use is there's some beta-carotene in there, but then the other vitamin A is in the form of vitamin A palmitate. And we'll talk a little later. There is there's been some research, and also there's a lot of confusion about the use of vitamin A in anybody with an eye disease, especially Stargardt disease. But a lot of that data is, I believe, misinterpreted. So we're writing more about that. There will be some things we're going to put out in writing so you can read it, because it's a complex discussion. But I don't recommend that people with Stargardt disease or any other eye disease completely avoid vitamin A. So people, some doctors get so radical that they say, well, not only don't take supplements with vitamin A, but don't eat fruits and vegetables. And the thing that makes the vitamin A into something dangerous is light, so don't go out in the light. And so now you're sitting eating potatoes in the dark, and it's not a good bit of advice for health. There are workarounds, ways to go with this. But I do like the liquid multivitamins, and the liquid multivitamins have everything in it, in some cases more so than what's in the AREDS study. And I think it's a far better absorbed product, better quality. And so that's why we go with the Protocol liquid multivitamins. That's got your basic B vitamins, it's got antioxidants, and that's the basic vitamin formula that we use.
Tune in for more podcasts and other presentations. Go to www.bettereyehealth.com. There is hope for sight.